Bord Gais Energy, putting customers at the core of under-20 and senior hurling championship action. Hashtag hurling to the core.
Hello and welcome to the Throw-In Independent.ie's GAA podcast in association with Bord Gais Energy. Welcome to Croke Park on All-Ireland hurling final eve, and a big hello to everyone watching on Facebook Live as well. I'm Will Slattery, delighted to be here with my co-host and colleague Michael Verney, as well as our all-star panel who between them have won 11 All-Irelands, 23 provincial crowns, 12 national leagues and 19 All-Stars, and that's not even including Verney's Offaly County medals, which we could throw in there as well if we wanted to. So please, a big welcome to Joe Canning, Brendan Cummins, Eddie Brennan and John Mullane. And we've already given away some of our prizes on the night. The signed jerseys have gone to a good home. And a reminder that we have 3 pairs of tickets that we're going to give out over the course of the show. You've given us lots of questions to ask the lads. We're going to pick out a couple of them, and the best 3 will go home with 2 or 3 pairs of tickets. So we'll have that to look forward to. And guys, first I guess we'll talk about, the day that's in it, All-Ireland hurling final eve. Brendan, you played in many finals. You won some, you lost some. What's this night like for the players? The hard work has been done, I guess. The team meeting has probably gone for the night. It's about 7 o'clock now. What's going through the players' heads?
I think they're tucking into their own bed, which is the key.
At 7 o'clock, you must be very
well, not now. But I mean, before, years ago, we would have come up the night before. We'd have stayed out in Jury's and Ballsbridge there or whatever, and the Radisson St. Helens with Liam in 08. But the key is that you are going to your own bed tonight. Kilkenny will come up in the morning the same as Tipperary, and that has a big change, I think, and a big comfort thing for you. It can be a little bit nerve-wracking. I remember in 10 the priest called to the house the day before and stuff like that. Literally bless my hands. I know is that a confidence booster for a goalie or what it is, but check there's no holes in them. But yeah, it is. It's a nervy kind of a thing. You want to kind of stay in your routine. You don't really want to think about the game. But then when friends or family or whatever call over, just say hello and say best of luck and things like that, your mind drifts towards it. But I think it's really important for players the night before that you show a bit of maturity and you keep your energy levels here, not up here or too low. You just try to keep focused on distracting yourself in the game. And once you meet up with the lads the following day, then everything looks after itself from there.
Yeah, John, and on the preparation, we were talking beforehand that we were going to start off asking this, and you gave a bit of a horror story about how Waterford were trying to get up to Dublin. Planes, trains and automobiles was what we were joking about. So you guys had a tough experience when it came to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, more or less semi-finals was a nightmare for us, because before the motorway, glad now we have the motorway here up in an hour and 20 minutes. We didn't have that luxury back in our day, but we tried everything. Trains, I mean, we even tried to fly up one Sunday morning to a semi-final, and there was fog. The plane got cancelled. So that'll tell you how much luck we had over the years. We couldn't even get the travel arrangements right. And then I think there was another occasion where we went up in the semi-final, and other lads were rooming other lads. And I remember one occasion, I think Seamus Pendergast, I think it was Brian Flannery. He kept Brian Flannery up. And I think Brian Flannery had to sleep in the bath because Seamus Pendergast was snoring. So it was an absolute nightmare. I used to love sleeping in my own bed. The last couple of years we ended up going up the morning of it. But sharing a room with a lad, if he's up, you're up. It's... Not to that extreme now. But no comment to that. But no, look, it got to a stage where I decided to room by myself. If we were going away, I said, I'll put in a.
We'll give you a minute to compose yourself, John.
Yeah, I suppose.
Well, I can understand this because on an all-star trip in 2004, Tony Brown described room with him like having a pet lizard in the room.
Well, can we elaborate on that? What exactly is the pet lizard? I'm not quite sure what's being slagged off there.
Well, I'll tell you. That was some occasion, wasn't it?
Oh, sorry.
Ended up going to mass the following morning. It's actually the best mass I was ever in. But
bit of communion wine.
But no, I think the luxury nowadays, Tip and Kilkenny, they're going to be in their own rooms. They're going to be at home with their families. You know, they're going to have no distractions. And I think on the eve of an All-Ireland, I think the last thing you want to be doing is being holed up in a hotel. That's from my own point of view, my experience, although we experienced it once, we got hammered by the lads. But, you know, you reach a hotel at, say, 5:30, 6 o'clock. I mean, you're waiting around there till the following day, 12, 12:30, 1 o'clock before you get the call to go to Croke Park. It's a lot of time to kill, you know.
Joe, your All-Ireland final preparation will be a little different from the lads, I suppose, a modern day player. The boys are maybe 10 years ago, they were playing in finals. But what was it like dealing with... sorry, Brent. It's nearly 10. What was
I wasn't
like
drinking pints the night before.
No. What was it like dealing with social media and even that, like just being out there a bit more? Did you have people coming up to you even looking for pictures, even around Portumna, this kind of crack? What's it like dealing with that? It's a lot different, I'd imagine, than 10 years ago.
Yeah, social media is obviously a bigger part of it now. But no, I don't really go home a couple of days before it. I live in Oranmore in Galway, just outside the city. So like that's 45 minutes from Portumna. I give them, my brother deals with tickets and stuff like that. So there's no need for me to go home because, to be honest, I did it in 12 and 15, and like Dad was just talking about the match, and who's playing here, who's playing there, will he start? And even though the team was announced 2 days before or whatever, but I learned to kind of stay away from people. And like people say you don't read or do social media, like it's a big part of people's lives now. Like I watched Up for the Match the last 2 years, the night before, because I was at home and I was bored, and like I live with 2 other guys that's on the panel as well, so like what else is there to do? You're just waiting to go to sleep, and you're nervous obviously, so you're not really tired in a way, so you do anything just to distract yourself, but you're still kind of knowing there's a big day tomorrow. And I think I found it weird watching Up for the Match. You didn't think you were going playing. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because you were almost in a supporter's kind of frame for that time. So I was probably a little bit more relaxed and like when you're in an occasion like that, I like to know what things are happening. You know, I don't like to kind of lock myself away and not enjoy the occasion, but actually know what it's about. Yeah.
Like, what would your routine be now? So would you go for a puck around, or like
on the Saturday?
Joe Cannon now, 5 o'clock on a Saturday. Like, what would Joe Cannon do now? Would he go for a puck around, or would he go watch a film? Or?
Yeah, no, like you would. You'd probably puck around in the day, in the evening time and stuff like that. At 5 or 6 o'clock, there's always some sport or something on, or TV. Probably watch TV. You'd probably cook around 6 or 7 o'clock.
Camille will surely be delivering you something today.
we haven't opened in Galway yet, so that's next year. But yeah, like even we played Limerick last year. I was working the day before. I was down in Limerick working, so there was a guy camped outside Camille, all right, with hats, flags, and headbands straight outside, selling them all to everybody. So yeah, like I just like to kind of keep busy, do normal day stuff, and don't shy away from the normal people in a way, but I shy away from my family because they're the ones that get to me the most.
Well, it's great to have so many normal people here tonight anyway. Eddie, and what about the Kilkenny preparation? Like, you're so used to it at this stage over the years. Brian Cody's been there, I think it's 15, 16 finals he's been involved in. Was it always the same preparation from your first one to your last one? Did it vary? You know, what was your approach?
I know it tweaked over the years. I think you have to kind of make a mistake or two to actually try, you know, find what works. But for me, it was the usual. I love the fact that I was always living away from Kilkenny. I was in Dublin for 6 years, and I was in Portlaoise for the remainder of it. So you were kind of on a day-to-day basis. I wasn't around Kilkenny, which was great. But the usual routine for me then in the first kind of few years was I would go home, and the biggest problem was, of course, the tickets and Mammy and the bloody suits on Saturday night, and she had to have about 5 of the neighbours up to look at the suit. And you're kind of in the hall and you can hear everything is going on, and you're getting cranky because I suppose you're younger, so you don't have the maybe the experience to deal with that, and you're going, say, will you just close the door and stop letting them in? Like, and then she'd come to you with someone else wanted tickets, and you said the tickets are dealt with. So you had to make mistakes. There was one year I got really, really cranky with that. I have to be honest about it. It's not an excuse, man, but I played crap that weekend, and it was down to the fact you were dealing with stuff you don't need to deal with. So I suppose I just you learn by the mistakes. But after a while, then through 05 and 06 onwards, I was working at Electric Picnic on the Saturdays, which was grand. So we used to be floating around, and it was a grand way to busy yourself. I liked being busy. I mean, Joe said it there. I think it's a great way to fill the day. For me, the routine was get up on Saturday morning, cook whatever bit of dinner you were going to have, and you brought it on a lunchbox with you into work, and you went working at Electric Picnic for a couple of hours, and you were able to float around, kind of anonymous to everything that was going on, and then head back down the road to Kilkenny that evening and go to the physio or whatever it was. And I just found that's what worked for me. Went to the ball alley for a while. You kind of busied yourself and stayed away from people, but you knew what worked for you, and I think that was the experience of it. I think with the best of respect to them, and they're the best in the world, but your family can be inadvertently and unknown to themselves the worst, because especially my mother anyway, and she's the best in the world, but oh, come in, look at the suit, and you're going, Jesus. So that was Saturday night. But Brian, yeah, we went up on the train in 2000. After that, it was the bus. That was just our routine, normal, up on the train, went to wherever it was, the Crown Plaza. One of the funniest episodes I seen was in 2000, my first year. We went to City West, and there was pre-match meals at the time where they weren't really that important or whatever. So for us as subs, anyway, we had a full Carvery dinner. But John Power had soup, main course. He then asked for a bit of egg mayonnaise, and then he had a dessert. And you just went, how could you possibly go out and play a match? And it was just unreal. I think DJ had steak and chips, and you just went. And that was the maybe just the unknown. The diet side of it wasn't that big, so that was.
Just thinking, I'd probably have 3 more Ireland medals if you 2 desserts. The fine margins in this competition, like it's just.
I ate the dessert, all right.
I suppose the diets and things have changed a bit, but Kilkenny and Tip is still the same 10 years on from the first final meeting. I suppose it's probably a good starting point, Brendan, the 09 final, which you were in control of until I'd say a dubious penalty, shall we say. And in fairness, Brendan, you were able to hold your cool. You never made any go at Dermot Kerman or anything like that. You held your cool. What's going through your head when something like that is happening around you? You're in control of a game, and then all of a sudden you can maybe just see it slipping away.
Well, I suppose that day when Richie got the ball and cut inside, he was tugged first by Paul Curran, free, no advantage in those days, and then he went a bit further and did a 10-point dive. And all I saw was Dermot Kerman come up the pitch, and you can't, when you're down at pitch level, everyone above us above the top can see down, but you're trying to look through the bodies and see what the ref's going to do, and he came into me with his hands out, so I came out to him with my hands out as well. Going, what's going on? Look at the screen, stop, you can't do this, it's wrong. But I knew then, though, of course, that when he had given the decision, all I wanted to do then was delay the penalty for as long as I could. Make whoever was going to take it turned out to be Henry, have to wait as long as he could with the ball in his hand going, like, I have to hit a penalty, and if I can score this, we'll win. So that's what we were delaying then as much as we could, and of course they got it. And as Eddie said earlier, it's all about experience. Then it became a bit of a fog because we were down to 14 men at that stage. I poked out the ball. Kavanagh was above cornerback. I think he won it in the corner. A couple of passes later, I think you were tearing through the middle then, played off the hand pass. And Martin Comerford then suddenly was slipping the ball past me and making that lovely face to Hill 16 as his celebration at the time. And we were bust, and it was as simple as that. And I think the lesson we learned, and I know it'll suit the lads tomorrow, that a lot of the lads were playing, the experienced guys obviously in the main positions, Paddy and Brendan Marinall, that if you play Kilkenny or you play anybody outside there, you nearly caught Limerick last year coming down the home straight. The very minute you think you have a little bit of a hand even on that cup, you blink, it loses concentration. And because all 15 have to work in sync, plus the manager and the subs on the line, the very minute one in the chain thinks that we're nearly there, that little bit of weakness out there, then you start to buckle and bend. And that's what happened to us that day. And in fairness, Kilkenny, that's the team they were, got their 4 in a row and put us away.
Oh, it was so funny. We were actually over in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, the All-Star tour in December. 3 months after that All-Ireland final, and Dermot Curran was there. So when the lads had a few beers, the Kilkenny lads are all going to him, "Oh, Dermot, how are you?" You see all the Tipperary lads were fit to kill him, like fits of rage, like, you know what I mean? The contrast between...
There was a wedding in Urlingford the week after that, and Mick Doyle is the undertaker and the local publican, and his wife is from Gurtnahoe, but whatever, they were there anyway, and could see the boys, it was all Tip, all Kilkenny, split down the middle, and a bit of growling went on, and Mick Doyle says, jeez, look, it was hard luck, lads, and she done all the hurling and all the rest of it, and jeez, I'll tell you what though, Dermot Curran is some man to sing a song. Says he was out in the City West that night and he was some crack. And the Tip boys went dull. Now, he wasn't out there. But the Tip boys at the wedding, Mick Doyle said they went doolally over it.
And then I guess, Brennan, the following year, obviously, the drive for 5 was the big talking point. Just like this year, the way Dublin are going forward against Kerry, their old rivals, it was up to you to stop the first team ever achieving 5 in a row. How big of a motivation was that? Was it just you wanted to right the wrong of the previous year, or was the card of stopping that 5, was that a big thing as well?
No, the 5 in a row didn't make a major amount of difference to us because it was kind of none of our business for all the words. What Kilkenny were trying to do, we were more focused, and we'd learned from that 10-minute spell the year before when we would have said in our dressing room that we had them down the home straight. They were just about going over the cliff, and we stopped pushing. So the whole thing for us was to complete the game and see it out. But of course, we were in Carton House training, and I remember one of the lads walked by me, and he said, "Do you hear that?" And we went quiet for a second. I could hear the birds in the trees tweeting away. That was it. He said, "There's 15,000 people in Nolan Park tonight at their training session." And that dawned on you then, the pressure that was going on next door. So it was the absolute sweet spot for us. We were coming with the experience we had from the year before. We were playing a team where, I suppose, Henry, is he playing or isn't he playing? We knew if he played, he wouldn't last very long. So we kind of prepared and spoke about that if Henry has to go off, don't worry about it, we'll just drive on. So all that stuff had been prepared for with us. So nothing was going to phase us for all the world. And then, yeah, we were ready to win in 2010. And in fairness to Eddie and the lads on the other side of the fence, the pressure must have been absolutely unbelievable, where we were coming in going, you know what, we're going to ruin this party, and that underdog tag kind of suited us.
What was that like, Eddie, actually? Like, that's probably the gates were probably closed fairly quickly after that night. It was a bit of a circus down there, to say the least.
No, I think the damage was done at that stage, so there was no point in closing them. But you see, what you had the whole time through that era was you had a core of guys that would, enjoyed watching the training sessions, and again, some of them were past players. And they enjoyed coming in and just watching it. And then bit by bit, it just increased. People start going, just right good internal matches there on a Wednesday and Tuesday night. So lads kind of went, cheers, sure, we don't have to pay into a match. Go in there and watch the boys train. And if there's a full internal match, bonus. So that just grew and grew. But in that year, it just went through the roof. I remember well the evening. I went down to Ger Hartman, and I don't know whether Brian sent me down because I was playing shit, and maybe that might fix me a little bit in my head. He said if he opens out the hips, he might think you're a great lad again. But the two boys were inside, Tenno and Henry were inside in the pool, and Ger Hartman was trying to rehab him. Poor John Tennyson actually was sitting in the skeff, I think, in Galway at the time when he got the phone call saying Henry has gone to Ger Hartman to fix the cruise ship. You need to go as well. And Tenno looking at the pint and down to Limerick into UL for a few days. But he got through the 70 minutes, Henry didn't. But it was, the two of them marked each other that famous night in training, and there was definitely, I can remember people going across the pitch to the other stand. It was that full in the stand. It wasn't 15, but there was about 8,000 or 9,000 people, which was mental. And even when they were waiting for Henry to come out, and it was a cringe thing in a way, to be honest about it, because you were kind of going, oh God, no, this is not good, and we're going into an internal match. It was our last internal match. But as luck would have it, poor Canis Hickey came running out past Henry. He didn't realise what was going on. So as Canis Hickey runs onto the pitch, the whole place just went mental. And the boys slagged him after. I remember Tenno and the boys saying, "Jeez, Canis, you got some reception onto the pitch." But it went through the roof, and it wasn't helpful. There's no doubt about it. And I'd say afterwards, Brian probably said it himself. He regretted just maybe there has to be a time where you just shut it down and say, look. And they were good at that. The public have to have access to the players in the run-up to an All-Ireland final, and you kind of organise that. But after that, then, if you're going into a match situation, a full internal match that's going to have an impact on picking the team, that has to be behind closed doors. It's not for the public. It's one thing maybe early in the year when there's internal matches going, but once it gets to All-Ireland final level, it has to be shut down.
And Joe, you made your senior debut kind of when this Kilkenny team were kind of rising, in 3 in a row, 4 in a row. and this Tip team were coming as well. Like, how did you find that kind of battling them and just even watching that unfold? It must have been very tough to kind of make that breakthrough when you had such big teams playing so well at the time.
Yeah, not great. Yeah, like when I came on the scene, probably 08, 09, kind of 10, we lost a lot of like quarterfinals by points or two. I remember we lost to Tip, I think, was it in 10 in the quarter final. We lost to Waterford by a point as well. One of those years could have been 11. Always got beaten by Kilkenny out the gate those couple of years in whenever we played them. But like I didn't play in a semi-final until 2012, and like when you were watching all those guys play in the All-Ireland, it was obviously something that you wanted to achieve. It's not any easier now, no matter who wears the black and amber or the Tip jersey. So it's twice as difficult almost, you know.
Yeah, it's funny. I was watching the game the other night, and you were quoted in saying that like when you were growing up, you dreamt of maybe winning 10 All-Irelands, and then when you start playing, you realise it's not that easy. Like when you were battling these great teams, did it kind of make you realise it's actually a bit tougher and maybe cause you to raise your game or to try even harder?
No, you weren't that naive to say that, geez, we're just going out onto the pitch and you just realise it. I said that because every kid dreams they'll play in All-Irelands every year. I probably played in hundreds of All-Irelands when I was 7, 8 years of age at home. So that was only the quote. It wasn't that I actually thought Galway would be in 10 All-Irelands for real. So yeah, that's all that quote was, yeah.
Just on the game the other night, they were talking about the game, you know, the contrast between winning and losing. Or just a question for the lads, you know, the difference between losing before winning one, like for Joe, like was it, you know, you lost a couple of finals before you won one. Was it harder to take last year, knowing what you were after doing the previous year, and you know the celebrations and you know the aftermath of winning it, you know, to come back the following year then and lose it? Like, you know, was the pain harder last year compared to the previous years before you won it?
No. To be straight up about it, it was probably. It depends on the game. Last year we didn't perform, so you kind of. That was the harder part of it. I think in 15 we performed for large parts of the match and lost. 15 was probably the hardest one. 12 you were kind of like you were playing against probably the best team that ever played at that stage. So 15 was the hardest one we lost because you performed and you didn't win for large parts. But obviously in this halfway through the second half, Kilkenny took over. But last year, because we didn't do ourselves justice, I think we only hurled for 15 minutes. So that was the kind of the harder part of it, not really the losing part of it, if you get me. If that makes sense.
Yeah, speaking about the pain of defeat, Eddie, having won so often, and obviously the drive for 5 went bust then, did Brian Cody's mentality and attitude change the next year? Was he like a man spitting fire? Was any complacency maybe that had been had in the setup, I presume, was completely gone for 2011 then?
God, no, that was standard. I was just even talking about it earlier on outside. I distinctly recall, 2010 being down there, and he brought us all into the warm-up area. And as much as that is a really good place when you win, I can just remember distinctly that day because you had Henry over in the corner, was on crutches and was quite upset. A lot of us were fierce down the gob. But for me personally, there was a sense of, yes, it's over now. We can go again. We can reset and go again, that this is gone. On a personal note, it was a septic year. I just wasn't at it. Wrong mindset and different things. But Brian Cody just distinctly said to us all, he just said, look lads, we have a few days to go through here. We will stick together. We go through it. We have a function tonight, journey home tomorrow. We have a homecoming in Kilkenny tomorrow evening. He said we present ourselves in the best light. He says there's kids and families going in there. We stick together, we go through that, and then he said we're finished and we go our separate ways. But he said we will be back here next year. And he said only the guys that want to be here are driven enough will be back here next year. And I suppose the question you're asking, Michael, is I was, you were fortunate to win one first, then we got bet in 04, having won 3. So you kind of knew what it took to a point. But obviously you have to push the bar that bit further. Like what was good enough to win one All-Ireland won't be good enough to win the following year's All-Ireland. So I think I think himself, he was probably saying he would do things a little bit different, and he did. He gave lads their chance. He brought in one or two fresh faces, but as much as tomorrow, his core philosophy will stay the same. He just wants work rate. He knows the lads are able to hurl, and I think what was different maybe after 10 was, in a way, the monkey was off our back as such, and then there was a kind of freedom to just go and hurl again. That bit of history was gone, and in that regard, I just think, more than ever, I suppose, if Dublin pull this off in the football, it'll be just unbelievable, because like even the thing with the ref now, these are all mad stuff that go on. Like there was hurls coming into us with 5 hurls and the years marked on them, and I think McGarry even said, lads, this is ridiculous, carry on. Like, okay, people want to get stuff signed, but so, and they're little things. The fact that you're getting distracted with them is just what it is. So the following year then it was able to just reset and go again, and just was recalibrated, and again Brian just pushed lads that little bit more.
I think we'll take our first question from the crowd that we got. We picked out 6 questions that are in contention for winning those 3 pairs of tickets. This one is from Stephen Crow. If John Mullane was in one corner and Joe Canning was in the other, who would they like to see playing at full forward? I'll go to Joe first, maybe.
From
anyone.
DJ.
Short and sweet.
DJ, yeah.
Well, for me, I think if he wins the All-Ireland tomorrow and he has a good game, picks up hurler of the year, I think he'll be crowned. I think he'll be the daddy of them all, TJ Reid. So I think, you have a man on the edge of the square who can catch a ball. He'll be throwing Joe into the corner. Jeez, you could have... Nice two to have alongside,
And this was a 2-part question also to Michael Verney. Which one of them would you have preferred to mark?
Oh, God, none of them.
Yeah, would you rather get shot in your left leg or your right leg?
Yeah, no, I'm still traumatised from marking Mullane before, so no, I think I'd put a sickie maybe that day, maybe. Yeah, just another one. This is just for you, John, actually. I'd say it's someone from Waterford, or that knows the Waterford kind of lingo. Which of the 3 blahs did John eat before a big match? Was it the rich man's blah, the working man's blah, or the poor man's blah? Can you explain what a blah is,
Well,
John?
I got an awful going in that you never mentioned the red lead. The red lead was a bit of corned beef. So back in the 80s, growing up, tough times in the 80s. You used to have the crisp blah. But I wouldn't touch a blah before a match, no, and that's been strange. So
what exactly is a blah?
A blah is kind of like a crusty, kind of floury kind of bap, like,
Okay.
So did you ever try one?
Never tried one, John. No, I'll meet you down in
The next
Waterford
time
for a
I'm
blah
in
next time.
A cup of tea and a rich man's blah.
We'll do one more from Lorraine in Cork. How long do the All-Ireland celebrations / drowning of sorrows go on for? Might go across the panel from Joe to John.
It depends on how tough you are. You'd probably go 3 or 4 days and take a break and go another 3 or 4 days. That's probably it.
In Tip, the rumour is that we keep going till the holiday, then we keep going again for the rest of the following year, and then 2 years later we say, we'll get cracking again and get back into it. But for me, I was a little bit bored. It's probably the Tuesday or the Wednesday, actually, after... It's funny, after Kilkenny beat us in 2011, I was back at work on the Tuesday. And Tuesday morning, I was going into the branch in AIB in Kilkenny. I was meeting Kilkenny supporters with sore heads coming against me from the night before celebrations. And they didn't know if they were seeing things because they were still drunk. What are you doing coming to the streets at this hour of the morning? But anyway, yeah, it can be a couple of weeks. And again, it determines on the stamina of the player, I suppose, that's going out. But these things have to be celebrated, that's one thing for sure.
Yeah, I've seen the record I've seen, and I won't name anyone, I won't name the 3, but there was the Sunday night, the Monday, Tuesday, then Wednesday went off somewhere quiet. But on Thursday night, I remember coming into a pub in Kilkenny, and there was lads that hadn't gone to sleep, I think, all through Wednesday. They were in the same gear we left them in that Wednesday. And at 7 o'clock in Langton's on Friday morning, they hadn't gone to bed. And they were in some order. Now, two of them were in a hape, but one of them was afraid you were going, were you drinking at all? And not a bother on them. But that's serious fitness.
I reckon one of them. I reckon one of them probably wore a red helmet as well. I'd say probably wouldn't be wrong either. Just on John, obviously a massive day for you tomorrow. Just in case anyone doesn't know, John is on commentary duty on Radio 1 for the big game tomorrow. His first All-Ireland. Just something, a query I have myself. I'd say the RT Chiefs probably don't know about John, or they probably wouldn't have given you the big gig. But there's some audio kind of floating around of something maybe that you might have done in the recent months. I think the lads are going to play a bit of audio for you.
Lads, funniest thing ever. Well, I think it is anyway. So, Owen Madigan went off to Australia. Know that, Owen Madigan? And John Mullane went to give him a card. Owen Madigan opened up the card over there. It was before he went, and it was a mask card. And he texted Mullane saying, "What's the story with the mask card or whatever?" So John Mullane, as after mixing up the cards, he sent Owen Madigan's card up to a dead man's body, about €30 in it, saying "Bon voyage."
Explain. Explain yourself.
Well, I'll tell you, in the world of social media, I'm glad I'm not on Twitter or not on Facebook, you know, but I'm on WhatsApp now and I'm well aware of what to be going on. So there is an element of truth to it, but the legs got added onto it. So an auntie of mine was after passing away, and I had a load of mask cards in the glove compartment. And your man, old Madigan, mate of mine, he was going away, and we were meeting up for a few drinks, and I was kind of rushing down to the pub anyway. And I put a few bob in a card for him, you know, so arrived in anyway, and I gave him I said, "Look, get yourself a drink out of that." And a couple of days later, he said, "Are you taking the piss out of me?" I said, "What do you mean, oh?" He said, "You gave me a mask card." I said, "Give me a mask card?" "Oh, shit," I said, "Fuck." So I said, what it was, I was giving him one of my auntie's mask cards. Now, as I got the card back to him, but there was no such thing as, you know, John Mullane sending on the 30 in a card to some other dead man and saying "Bon voyage." But look, fair play to the lad. Look, that's just the way we are down in Waterford. It's a bit of banter and that, but it most certainly didn't happen in that regard, no.
Well, that was just as good as I had hoped.
Yeah, just moving on to just quickly, probably a bit more comedy. Brendan, I know you talked about in your book in the 2012 final, of course, when you met, or 2012 semi-final when you met Kilkenny, there was a tactic going on up the far end of the field. I think that you were fairly unaware of. Mr. Corbett was following around Tommy Walsh. Can you just explain that to me and your own emotions towards it?
My emotions haven't come off the boil since, and just how many years. Yeah, we were going man for man on Kilkenny all over the pitch. And yeah, normally when you're in the goals, it's gas. The very first puck out, I remember looking out, and normally all you can see is small numbers because everyone's facing you. But when I looked out 2.5 forward line, I could see big numbers. So I thought like that at this stage, Larry had his back turned to me because he was going to make a run. And I used to look at the big screen to see what was going on kind of up the other end of the pitch when they showed to me, because it's hard at that level to see where the spaces are. So I looked up and I could see the space in front of Larry, and I pinged it out in front of him. So Tommy Welch went bang straight out, caught him, fed it into the corner, over the bar. So there's something different going on here. And I didn't realise, to be honest, any of this was happening. And at half time we had a chat, and then the second half it came out, and Foxy, Conor O'Brien was in the goals for me. He got a free out under the Cusick stand right at the start. And Foxy came into the goals beside me, and then a big hey went up around the pitch because Larry had come back out onto the pitch at that stage. And I turned to Foxy and said, "What's going on there?" He said, "Larry's after arriving out." He said, "I don't know what's going on, you know." So, and that was that. So we didn't really know, I suppose, what was happening at the time. And I suppose above all, you probably tell the goalie if you are going to do something, but I wasn't really aware that this was happening. And look, it was supposed to be done at a training match the weekend before, but if it was, I mustn't have been at the training match, but or missed it, or I didn't cop on. I don't know either way, but it was. And actually, if you talk to some people, would say it was actually working for a while. And others would say it was crazy. But look, either way, it was just something that happened on the day, and it turned into obviously that bit of a circus up the other end. And the lads went to the corner flag.
I was sitting right behind it and watching it, and I just went, "What in the name of God are they doing here?" I just thought it was the craziest thing, whoever's idea it was, because effectively it grouped together two of your best forwards, two of your scoring forwards, it didn't matter if Jackie or Tommy ever touched the ball.
What was the other fellow? Was Bork, was it?
It was actually priceless because I looked at it. Pa was trying to keep at Jackie. Lara was trying to get at Tommy. Tommy kept shoving Lara out of the way, trying to get at Pa. And it was just a vicious circle. They come over right in the corner of the Cusack and Davin at one stage, and the four of them stood together. And I said, God, I'd love to be playing over there to be a ball of space. And I was just went, here. And I put it down as, I think, my moments of the year in the Sunday game that year. I was like, this is just crazy.
I was actually over in Spain, and I said to myself, the next thing Lara should do was just blow him a kiss.
Well, they were close enough for it anyway. Guys, that's the great Kilkenny Tip rivalry of the past. And now here we are again, 2019. We started the decade with it, and we're finishing with it as well. Brendan, I don't know, at the start of the year, I don't think many people would have predicted this exact final matchup. But now that we are here, who was the edge? Because I found it interesting today reading through some of the previews. Michael Verney was one of the only people who's actually tipped Kilkenny in any of the papers. So even though people are saying 50-50, it's a really tight game, everyone seems to be going with Tip. So what does that mean for them?
I do, yeah. It kind of worries me because before Kilkenny played Cork, I was the same. I couldn't see Kilkenny beating Cork. And as the game moved on, I thought they might sneak this one. When they did, I thought, that's it now. Limerick have been well warned. They'll go out. And then the 15-minute spell, they go 11 points up, and you're going, oh my God, Kilkenny are back, and that's it, So I think it really is a 50-50 game tomorrow. I think if you look at both panels, I think there's 10 of the Kilkenny team, 11 of the Tip team from 2016 going to be out there. Experience and youth is all, the balance is kind of the same. It's going to come down to who can manage Shane Callan or Colin Fennelly and stop the ball from going into either, because once it lands inside there, they're just going to be lethal. But the mind games, of course, will all start, and everyone start looking at bookies and favourites and all that kind of thing. And it's not playing any mind games here this evening. It's going to be a hair's breadth between either, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and Joe, from your perspective, obviously last year playing Limerick in the final and being in the final the year before, it looked like Galway and Limerick could have been the two teams maybe fighting it out at the end. Is it frustrating to see the two old powers back again, and you're sitting here watching it?
It's not frustrating to see the two teams, and it's frustrating that we're not there, or anybody like you. I remember the week after we got knocked out, I was at a thing in Kiltomer with Darren Frehel from RTE as well, and they had a 50-year celebration. I actually tipped Kilkenny to win the Leinster and the All-Ireland, but obviously didn't win the Leinster. But I think they're getting the lads back at the right time. Like, you look at Killian Buckley coming in again tomorrow, and Richie Lahey, in my opinion, I actually don't know how he's off the team. I think he's brilliant, to be honest. I think he's very underrated. I think he came on against was it Cork and scored like 3 or 4 points this year in the second half and kind of changed the game just after half time. So I think they've a very strong bench, very experienced bench. James Maher as well is another one. So I think the benches will be, if whoever kind of gets a couple of scores. We did against Waterford. Our bench came on and scored 4 or 5 points from play. You looked at Limerick's last year. Throughout the year, they were very strong. So you'll have your finishers coming on midway through the second half or whatever, and whoever gets more out of them, I think, will win the game. Yeah, it's interesting, Eddie, because Tip got such a boost off the bench against Wexford. Maybe a part of the team that people didn't know was as strong as it was. And as Joe says, with Richie Lahey in reserve, maybe Kenny can match them well there, because that could be crucial in the last 15-20 minutes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think up to that point in the championship, we didn't know that Tip had a bench, to be honest. I think that would have been saying that maybe despite the under-20s, they had gone with a fairly settled core of guys, 1 or 2 lads in and out. So I think for me what the key thing is, and Joe has made the point there perfectly, I think with the high attrition rate and the high mileage that lads are putting up during matches, I think getting fresh legs in at the right time is critical. And I think that's what ultimately, when you look at the game Wexford played, both wing backs were up and down the field, were all over the place. Come down the last 15 minutes, they weren't able to move. And where did the Tipperary fresh legs go in? It went in around that area. And the message is simple at that stage. It's logical to get the ball and carry it. They can't stay running after you. So if you have a guy like Richie Lahey who can run, James Maher who can run, Billy Ryan, I suppose I'm being a bit biased, my own club man, they're all very, very mobile guys. And that is the key to it, because if you're looking and you're taking in all the information that's been fed down now, you're now hitting lads that are zapped. So put a fresh lad in on somebody,
get the ball to him in space. And his information is very, very clear, saying, look, tuck back in, get the ball in front of you and take him on. And I think that was quite evident, because I just saw, and this is why I admire the guy so much. I was looking down at it that day, and Brendan Maher, for me, on the 62nd minute, I think he visibly wobbled on his legs. Such was the effort he had put into that point. So, and I said it to, you heard it on the commentary, I said, he's gone. I said, Tip needs to get him out of there now, or he's going to get done. So, cute enough, Liam looked in at it. He had last sub, I think, was Alan Flynn, and what he done was he showed Brendan Maher back in. You think, God, he's going in cornerback, but he just tucked in beside Ronan Maher, and the fresh legs were out there now. And it just meant you were protecting him, and the head, which is the most important thing of all as well when the body is fading. Brendan Maher won a free right there at the death, and it was a key free in a match like that where you're trying to get home. So I think it's vitally important. I think the benches are, because sometimes, Martin Comerford did it for us in 2009, and especially it's something that I would have zoned in on this year with Laois, was I really drilled the subs in saying that you need to be concentrating more than the lads on the pitch, because one of you might get 2 minutes, and in that 2 minutes you might get one possession, and that one possession has to count. And it's the same, with subs. If you get 15 minutes, you get to sit in the stand and watch how that match is playing out, and get to say, okay, the lad you're going in on is on a yellow, so we're going to take him on. That's the information you have. So it'll be critical tomorrow, and the time that you decide to go with those subs is equally important.
Speaking about the subs, John, being vitally important, two players obviously that are vitally important are the two captains. I know we had it in the front of our paper today. It was the Tip talisman against the top cat, like Seamus Callan against TJ Reid. It's really. Do you think the game depends a lot on who has the upper hand in that battle? Obviously, they're not marking each other, but who has the bigger impact on the game?
Well, look, tomorrow is the greatest show, and it's going to be a case of who's going to be the greatest showman. And I think the result will a lot of it will bear down on who nullifies both them men. If Brendan Maher goes and marks TJ, if he can nullify his influence, well, Tipperary have a great chance. Likewise, on the opposite end, if you Lawler can some way negate the influence of Seamus Callan, well then Kilkenny are in pole position. It's two big matchups. A lot of it will depend on the space, what way Eamon O'Shea is going to go about it. I think Eamon O'Shea is crucial tomorrow. An awful lot of people are saying that Tipperary won't get the same amount of space that they got in 2016. But for me, I think they're going to have to find a way to find that space. If they don't find that space, and it goes into a war of attrition out around that middle third, I think the game will probably be played on Kilkenny's terms and Kilkenny will win it. But if Eamon O'Shea can come up with some sort of a plan to, get the space required to allow the likes of Seamus Callan, Bubbles, John McGrath, Jason Forrest, they like space. And if it comes a bit of a shootout, Tipperary will be on course to win the game,
Eddie, you weren't a bad man to get a goal yourself, but Seamus Callan a goal in every game this championship. Someone was asking me on Twitter, has it happened before? It probably has, because there might have only been 4 games. But if he does it tomorrow, he'll have scored in 8 consecutive games. Like, that's unbelievable, really.
It's an outrageous stat. It's something that's absolutely phenomenal. And I just thought even the last day, I think the range at which he can score is unbelievable. But I thought what was really missed was the fact that it wasn't a great pass. It was going away from the goal. And I think Fanning possibly erred in not staying coming. But when he stood up, I think, and this is the awareness, and this is how good the hurling brains are nowadays, or with certain guys, again, the man over here on the right, allowing the ball, he allowed that ball to bounce up rather than try to force it when it was on the ground. And I think by letting it bounce up, he knew he was narrowing his angle. He knew he was lessening the chance of converting it. But he himself backed himself, and he just caught it on the sweet spot and put it into the only place he could put it. But it's a savage record. I think if he turns around and hits the net tomorrow, it'll just be, you just say, well, wow, what a player he has been this year. And I think sometimes you look at guys where they peak over a 4 or 5 year period. Maybe Richie Hogan did that for a while, and then there's a dip. But Seamus Callan has come back stronger than ever. And I think what I really like about him this year, he has bought a real physical edge to his game. He is actively hunting down defenders, and he's not afraid to give it to them and take it off them and go in and get the scores. But I suppose, I think tomorrow it could be, I hope it doesn't turn into a shootout between the free takers. I think that it'll be a flowing game. But I always love is that there could be somebody tomorrow completely left field that just has that game of games. And yeah, we're all focusing in on the boys, and rightly so. They are probably button heads for hurler of the year. But I equally think that if Noel McGrath was to have a big game tomorrow, he could come right into the reckoning. I know that's going off track about what it is, but that's a different conversation.
And likewise, Pádraig Welch as well. Pádraig Welch has been a revelation this year. If he has a big game tomorrow, he puts himself in the reckoning for hurler of the year as well, you know.
Yeah, Joe, you've obviously played against, as the lads mentioned, TJ and Seamus Callan having such good seasons. You've played against both of them so many times. Like, what's your assessment of the way those two are hurling at the moment? Because they do seem to be at the very peak of their powers.
Yeah, they're like, I suppose, fine wines, as people kind of say. They, like, at the start of their careers, to be fair, they found it difficult enough to kind of nail down places for a large part of it. And then when they like came into their late 20s, just the last 4 or 5 years has been phenomenal from them. Like, TJ especially is just the go-to man every time. Like, you look, when Kilkenny concede a score or under pressure, O'Murphy just launched down to TJ, and probably 9 times out of 10 he'll get it. And it's like, and then you look at Shamey. I think Shamey might have only had maybe 3 or 4 possessions in the first half the last day, and he scored 1-1 or 1-2 with it. Do you know, like, his strike rate is phenomenal. But the two guys are just, yeah, I think the goal thing, if he does score tomorrow, it's going to be brilliant. It'd be nice record for Shamey personally to have. But I don't even think, like, you often see it in All-Ireland finals, as Eddie was kind of alluding to there, somebody different comes up the whole time. Like 2012 when we played Kilkenny, Walter Walsh came, replay 1-3, man the match. You often see a different guy every time getting man the match that maybe wasn't talked about before the game. So, like, it's, and even trying for Tipperary to create space and stuff like that, like, Kilkenny won't be just worried about Shamey Canlan and the space that'll be in front of him. Like, it's the collective for both teams. It's not even head-to-heads or this guy and this guy. Everybody has to do a job. So if one guy isn't doing the job, he's letting the chain break for the rest of the team. So it's a collective. It's not just about maybe 2 or 3 guys off each team.
So what Eddie and Joe were saying, Brendan, is there anyone you think could be that kind of surprise package who could turn the day? Anyone
I think,
jumping out at you?
from a tip point of view, I think John McGrath, he'd hurl with way more freedom. I think when he was on his backside out there and slashed across the Wexford player, I'd say he thought my year's over. And when you sit down then and you know it's only been 2 yellows and you have a chance of redemption, we'll call it, I think at that stage the shackles come off you as a player, because you're saying to yourself, right, I'm sitting here, I was worried for the previous 52 or 3 minutes of that game as to would I get on a ball or wouldn't I, and I was second guessing myself. He actually looked sluggish to me for the last couple of games, but I think he'll play with more of a freedom now, because it was all taken away and he got to see what the world was like without hurling and thinking that he mightn't get to a final. Now he'll feel he's in bonus territory, so I think John McGrath for me will be the one tomorrow for Tip. And the other then is Blanchfield for Kilkenny. I think he's on the panel a nice while. He did okay against Waterford a number of years back in a semi-final, but Brian Cody keeps him inside in the panel. He's a big man. I think a lot of high balls will come in the end of the game, especially when teams get tired. And like when you're down there, it becomes a bit of a frenzy in the last 5 or 6 minutes if it's in the melting pot. So the ball just goes inside the 14, and both teams then, you have to win your own ball in there. And my fear from Tipperary is that if Blanchfield comes on, if he happen to get one-on-one with Cathal Barrett, he'll have the height advantage inside on an angle ball. At some stage he's going to click, and I'm hoping that it won't be tomorrow from a Tip point of view, but I'll tell you, he's one fella that could explode on this, because he has the experience and he probably feels himself, I'd say, he hasn't fulfilled the potential or the trust that's been put in him. So I think if Kilkenny are going to go anywhere tomorrow, I think he might be the one coming on.
Eddie, just a quick one. You were obviously, we're talking about man the match. You were man the match in the 07 final, and you scored 2-4 the following year, but were beaten to the man the match award by Brian Cody. What? Like, I always wanted to ask you, like, surely there was a big part of you that was absolutely raging.
I think there was an awful lot of lads whose betting dockets went down the drain and they were raging. There was serious letters wrote on the back of that. Like, RTE got letters over it from lads that had, one lad even had it doubled up when the bookies were taking the double of first goal and man of the match, and they went, I think one lad even sent a solicitor's letter to RTE over it. So that was how important it was. But I thought personally, yeah, I was in the mix for it, but I went back. I remember looking at it afterwards, and it's great to be considered that way. It's the bonus when you win. But for me that day, if anyone was man of the match, it was JJ Delaney, because I don't think he made one mistake. I think he caught a ball out of Dan's mouth at one stage, but I looked at when you took a shot, I think, and it went over the bar. But it's gas. He was the closest fella to you, just barely missing the block. I remember looking back on that match, and we watched it or whatever, but I don't think he made a solitary mistake. And I just said, if you want to show young lads an example or a guide to show of doing the simple things well, right through 72 or 73 minutes when All-Ireland, was JJ. So, no, I wasn't. It would have been great to get it, don't get me wrong, but and it was even worse then there was no flight to fucking Dubai then.
John, obviously he brought up the 08 final. I'm not we're going to swerve away from that. But one of the players.
Well, I actually backed him in 0-70 in that match. He was 16-1. I was going down flying out to Lanzarote for. We would have been beaten by Limerick, and went into Dungarvan at €20, and him was 16-1. And I was over in Lanzarote. You got a goal, you got a point. I said, another goal or a point now, or we'll be on the ball. You know, 2-4, is it? 2-4, but 16-1. I came home to nice winnings from Lanzarote. Thanks, Eddie.
Drink out of that.
Just on, you mentioned one of the tip players today in the paper, John, outside of Seamus Cannon, that you think is one of the most important, and he's probably one of the few rookies in the tip panel and the tip team is Brian Hogan, and obviously he's going to have a massive role in tomorrow's game.
Yeah, and I was just listening to the radio coming up. He's been an understudy there for the last 3 or 4 years. You know, he comes from good stock. His father was a serious goalkeeper, and he's going to be crucial tomorrow for Tipperary, for the simple reason, if he has to go long, we've seen in the past that Tipperary can struggle in their half-hour line on the puck out, the aerial ball. So he might have to vary it tomorrow, go short, go long, but he's going to be an integral part for Tipperary, if Tipperary to get over the line. Another crucial player, I would think then, from a Kilkenny point of view, would be Adrian Mullane. He's 20 years of age. You know, and I think when you go into a final, these lads know you're young, you have no fear, you're carefree. You know, compared to some of the older lads, you're thinking, geez, I might be back here next year, or this might be my last final. He's going in tomorrow, he's thinking, well, look, I'm 20 years of age, I'm going to play more of these finals. So I think he's the one player that I'd be keeping a close eye to tomorrow, because you know, you go back to, I think he was taken off against Galway. And I mean, we touched on this before during the year in the paper. It's incredible how Brian Cody can take off lads just before half-time, not really insult them, but you know, if that was any other manager, any other county down the country, you know, it takes a fair lad to come back from being taken off just before half-time, mentally more so than anything else. But Brian Cody has this knack of, you know, taking lads off just before half-time, you know, getting the kick up the backside, and then you're seeing a reaction. And to be fair to Adrian Mullane, you know, he came back a week later, he was excellent down in Wexford Park, and he's on course now to be Young Hurler of the Year, and he could be the potential match winner for Kilkenny tomorrow.
The puck outs, I think Tip put a big emphasis on these skyrockets that Brian Hogan does, and someone comes out, they won't try catch it. It's this break left or break right, and they're at it all year. And I just think it's something that you have to watch. They're quite good at it.
Yeah. But it just on the puck outs as well. It does take two, because I know I'd have been down there looking out, and we wouldn't have had major tactics for a number of years, but we had it certainly under Raymond that you go to the wing backs, because obviously the half backs want to sit back and have that shield or five across the middle. So yeah, it's that floated one, and I think Limerick probably missed the trick in the semi-final. Their two wing backs came back nearly as cornerbacks. They tried to run it up as a pair. That's the way they tried to get the overlap. It didn't work. I think Tip, you have to go to 5 and 7. Going to 2 and 4 doesn't work against Kilkenny. It's too far to run the ball, and if you do that, you're bust. But it won't all be on. Yes, it will be on Brian Hogan's shoulders to deliver the right pass, but it'll be on other people's shoulders to make room and make space so that the option is available to him, because the fella says it takes two to tango on those as well.
Well, we could talk about this game all night. We're just going to finish up with the last couple of questions and then get a prediction from our panel, and that will be it. This is for everyone, and this is a good one, I think. If they were both in their heyday, who would win in a fight between Liam Sheedy and Brian Cody? I want everyone to answer this.
Leave that to the boys, I'd say. Yeah, they know them best.
I'll tell you, there's only one winner for me, and it came when John O'Brien scored a goal in the league final in 2009. Earlier that year, we'd been loaned Nolan Park, and I think it was 4-12. Martin Comfort had chipped me the last puck of the game at half-time. Kilkenny supporters were roaring at us coming off the pitch. About Tip supporters locked the doors and make them watch it was going on. And we were high as kites going into that game in 2009. And John O'Brien, I think, slapped the ball in past PJ to the corner, and I think Sheedy went up along the line and gave Cody a nudge and said, "Welcome to Turles, Brian." And
it was from behind.
No, it wasn't behind. No. So if they're coming across the ring flat at each other, I'm backing Liam Sheedy all day long.
Eddie.
It'll be on the pitch, the All-Ireland will be won, so what the two boys do on the sideline will be irrelevant. But no, I've seen Brian square up. It's not pretty. I would like to be.
When he spits on the palm of them hands, he means action, you know. You need a good referee now, and that's being straight. Maybe someone like Davy Fitz now to kind of roam in between the two of them.
That's petrol. That's petrol. That's not a referee.
Just another question for everyone there. I'll start with you, John. As a player, who's been the one player that has always roasted you? That's from Sean O'Callaghan.
Well, I'll tell you, Eddie can vouch for this. The man down there, Mr. Cannon, probably one of the best players this generation. But by God, look, I never won an All-Ireland medal, and it's a travesty. His brother never won an All-Ireland medal, and you let go of this, Eddie. I think pound for pound, the best man marker in the noughties, cornerback was Ollie Cannon for me, you know.
Yeah. Eddie? Yeah, no, I'd agree, absolutely. For me, the two guys that I always struggled with was Ollie and Wayne Sherlock from Cork, two serious jokes, but it was their hurling brains. They played with their head the whole time. They understood what to do and when to do it, and there was a time to let you have it, there was a time to go in front or whatever, but just two unbelievably clever hurlers.
No one ever roasted you, Brendan, because you can't, but you roasted yourself a couple of times, to be fair.
Jesus, hey now. We were getting on fierce well there now. You started this crack. Wow, we're still talking about the old Christie ring now in a minute, and we bring off the hurling. What's called it? Go on. It's not going to be you for me anyway. That's a fact.
One day there, we were busy winning Brendan his All-Star there in 2003. We hit a few warm-up shots, and then we'd eventually get a goal. But I remember at one stage he turned around. Says, "Geez, lads, will you give me some kind of help here to the backs?" I said, "I thought Paul Curran was going to split him."
I'll pick one for nearly each generation. First, for me, when you're playing the goals, you know when you're going out, there's some lads who will take the point from 25, 30 yards, and you're comfortable when they get it in their hand. You say, "He did roll the bar, go off the puck and out early." Paul Flynn, Waterford, never went for a point. He's taking a 65. I'm covering my line because he could try to hang it up, right? That's a fact. He'll dip the ball. It starts about 5 feet over the crossbar, rolls the wrist, and it just dips all of a sudden. Disaster. The other then is Henry. And then finally, it's this lad here beside me, because we're outside there in the quarter-final the year in 10. We eventually got across the line. We took a 21-yard free above. I had the lads in the goals with me. And he threw it up, and honest to God, I only remember seeing him throw it up. Conor Manny beside me said, "Where's it gone?" I says, "I've come out between your legs." It's just like, what are you supposed to do, you know? And everyone aside, "He never moved, he never dived." I never saw it. Fact. What? Joe?
JJ Delaney.
Class, yeah.
Hayes, thank God he's retired.
Do you have any more? Is that it?
I have one last one for you, Eddie. How does it feel to be married to a Tip woman and knowing that your children will wear Tip jerseys when she brings you back to live in Tip?
No, I've dropped.
This
is serious. No, the anchor is dropped in Kilkenny, thankfully. But yeah, we do have a split household at home. The oldest lad's primary school has sorted him out. He was a bit confused there when he was 3, and he used to wear a Tip jersey. But no, the small two now have to work on them. Simon and Maeve are both gone home. One of them with a Tip top. And yeah, sure, look, it's all healthy and well. And James Ryle, actually my own clubmate, wore a Tip jersey for years, and he ended up hurling with Kilkenny. So some people close to the border are confused at times.
Okay, just before we get their predictions, I think it's time to give away those 3 pairs of tickets. Michael, I don't know, do you have a short list of questions? I have 2 here that are in my short list, from Lorraine from Cork and from Colin. So they're in contention.
And I have one. It's Sean O'Callaghan.
So that's 3 there.
Yeah.
So congratulations, you guys. You have won 3 pairs of tickets to the All-Ireland hurling final. And Darragh will give those out just at the end of the show. Now it's time for the predictions. Joe, we'll go first. Who do you think is going to win?
Kilkenny.
You and Michael Verney flying that flag. Brendan?
Just the way my predictions have gone, I nearly feel like saying Kilkenny because Tip would definitely win then. But no, I think Tip by a couple of points, and I think Tip are going to take the monkey off their back tomorrow and win a close game against Kilkenny because they've listened to it so much and heard about it so much. If it's an arm wrestle this, Kilkenny will beat you. They always beat you down the home straight. I think with that Liam Sheedy fire inside them, the bench coming on with the comps they've had will get us by a short head across the line.
Go on, Eddie.
You know what I'm not going to say anyway. No, I do. I think Kilkenny are just coming along nicely. Genuinely, the feeling at home would have been that maybe an All-Ireland was beyond their reach this year, but they have certainly gone the tough route about it, and I think they're just coming into form at a really good time. There is a few ifs. They really have to shut down the supply to the Tip full forward line. I think that's the only way we're going to help our defenders. Didn't happen in 16. It'll happen tomorrow.
And the last word, John?
Yeah, I think the weather's going to play a big part tomorrow.
Have you been on to Matt Aaron, John?
There's one sure thing. Kilkenny are going to turn up tomorrow and they're going to bring a level of intensity. So I think it's vitally important Tipperary turn up and they mirror. And if they mirror the intensity and the level of aggression in the tackle, I give them a great chance. If they can find the space, as I said, through Eamon O'Shea up front. 2 key matchups then are Callan, Hugh Lawler and TJ and Brendan Maher, and then we've the roll of the benches. I think Kilkenny, you go back to 2016, Kilkenny were only bringing on 2 subs back then. I think they have a lot more luxury on the bench compared to 2016, but likewise the Tipperary. But breaking it all down, I think it's going to be a tight encounter, but I'd favour Tip by 1 or 2 points.
Well, it is.
Well, in saying that now, I favoured Cork and Limerick the last day and Kilkenny won, so that's a good omen for Kilkenny.
Well, it's set up to be an absolute cracker, and unfortunately that's all we have time for in the throw-in tonight from Croke Park in association with Bord Gais Energy. Thanks so much to the lads for joining me, to Michael and to all of you, and to everyone who watched on Facebook Live. We will be back next Monday with another podcast, but until then, thanks very much and enjoy the game.
Bord Gais Energy, putting customers at the core of under-20 and senior hurling championship action. #hurling to the core.